Good morning. It's another beautiful day in New York City, and there's so much to talk about. This week, I attended a conference at our synagogue, the Stephen Wise Free Synagogue. It's a Reform synagogue. We are aligned with Israel and Zionist values, and we had a discussion on recharging Reform Judaism and how to meet the challenge of having our kids feel the same way as we do about Israel. I'm not talking about the politics. I'm talking about the state and the fact that Israel is the only Jewish nation. It was established in 1948 by a vote of the UN. At the same time, for those of you who don't know, there was to be a Palestinian state, but all of Israel's neighbors went to war against Israel instead. We're doing something about educating our kids about Israel. We're actually linking up with Birthright, which gives trips to Israel for Jewish children. So we've expanded it from 18 years old this year to 40. Not exactly kids, but young people who will get a trip to Israel and then help out wherever they're needed. It's August 5th through 12th. And perhaps some of your congregations or churches might want to do the same to educate people about Israel. It is a pluralistic society. And I would hate to think that because of the war in Gaza and because of the tragedy that's happening to the Palestinian people, that people would not hate Israelis because of their politics. And the politics are going to be changed. I know it. I feel it in my bones because already more moderate factions are circling, coming together. They have coalitions when they vote in Israel. It's not like here. They're not a straight out democracy with two-party system. They got many parties that come together, just like in Great Britain, to form a coalition, or Denmark, to form a coalition and a democracy. Israel is a republic. So they're looking to bring the hostages home. They're looking to stop the war, but to stop the war without Hamas. And then there'll be a day after. It's just like in our country. I wouldn't want people to say they liked Americans based upon our politics. That would make me feel really dreadful because we don't know what will happen in November. But in preparation for that, let me tell you a couple of things. Some of the facts that I've learned. Inflation, may have ticked up a little bit, but basically, inflation is low. And if the Fed isn't careful and doesn't start to lower rates, we're going to go into a recession. Big business doesn't care. They'd love a recession. And as it is, our economics are not morally right for most of the people. If you're working 40 hours a week and you still can't make ends meet, there's a problem, especially when CEOs are taking home hundreds of millions of bucks. The bar for CEO compensation and packages and pay has gone sky high. Used to be, I thought, 11 million average for a CEO was a lot. But that's not the case anymore. They take home a couple of $100 million a year. We know attorneys make a couple of million every year anyway, and then they invest, if they've got a partnership, in real estate trusts, and whatever brings them income into the firm. So this is a year where government really has to look at the economy. Gotta notice what's happening to we the people. Too many people can't afford rents. Too many people are paying high utility bills. Too many people are still paying a lot of money for food, even though food and fuel are not even in the inflation index. I hope Jerome Powell, the head of the Fed, will notice that inflation is really curbed and on an even keel. 2% inflation is an arbitrary number when you're not really building in an economy, and we should be building. We've got $1.1 trillion dispensed to the states, dispensed for infrastructure and for building schools, modernizing libraries, bridges, roads, tunnels, internet, you name it, there's money out there. And I would think if we utilize that money and we gave people better jobs, we wouldn't have even a hint of inflation, and we'd start paying down corporate debt. But we're a capitalist society, an end-stage capitalist society where folks who are running the businesses, and they're all monopolies, are running them for profit only. They don't care about the morality of their business. They don't care that there's forever chemicals. Oh, now somebody cares about forever chemicals. We're thinking about bailing out huge agricultural firms because they've been subjected to those PFAS chemicals, the forever chemicals. Well, what about the rest of us? All 360 million of us who have been exposed to those chemicals. We should be bailed out too. And I got one way to bail us out. Take away the subsidies from fossil fuels. Stop giving them more permits. We're only at maybe 20% renewable energy. We can do better, much better. But corporations don't want to think about tomorrow. Not when they're raking in the billions and the trillions, and they don't have to change. It was interesting in World War II. Henry Ford was a pacifist. He wasn't for war at all. Not until he understood that if he repurposed his assembly plants to build tanks and trucks, he could make a fortune. Then he became pro-war. Until that point, Henry was a pacifist. Same thing with big business today. They don't want to change. In doing so, they're killing us. They're making our lives shorter. And yet, if they changed, the amount of good it would do would be exponential, both in terms of our health and in terms of the GDP, the economy. Elections are always about the economy. How do we feel in our pocketbook? Don't give big business the go-ahead to do what they want because they're pro-Trump, even though he's now been convicted of a crime in New York State. They're still pro-Trump because he's promising them permanent tax cuts, and he's promising even more hundreds of billions to the fossil fuel energy. We got to get serious, folks, about curbing the climate extremes. Don't worry about inflation, or we'll go into a recession, and nobody wants that. I hope you're listening, Jerome Powell.